We haven't decided, but at this
Okay.
point, any economic development issue, we're gonna handle together.
So the roll call, who's gonna do the roll call? You want me to do the roll call?
If you could,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good, very good. There's, I think Councilman Martinez is gonna show up.
Yes, he is, he's right outside.
Okay,
We need another chair?
yeah, we need another chair.
Go ahead, Craig.
So we brought the councilman, which from your district.
Oh, awesome.
Very good. Well, we'll call this meeting to order. Attendance, Fred Dickey.
Here.
Mayra Hernandez.
Present.
Rodney Rodriguez. John Villarreal here. Arturo Dominguez.
Here.
Guadalupe Ramirez. Rafael Dueñas. Julian Rodnowski.
Here.
And Joe Maldonado.
Here.
So we have a quorum, Mr. Eads and Ms. Calera.
Thank you.
Okay. First item on the agenda are the minutes, and we have some pretty extensive minutes from last time. If y'all want to give yourself some time to go over the minutes and see if y'all have any discussions or any amendments to the minutes. I think, Mr. Rafnowski, you had, I think on the item that you had brought as far as the downtown, the inner city housing and incentive policy.
I just wanted to clarify with the current minutes if we can do a presentation at city council
Okay.
on what we've approved out of here, and if we can get city staff, or if we can get the council to agree to get city staff to work on finding funding sources.
Okay.
And I think that actually ties into one of the topics
Because it doesn't do
today.
any good to do anything here and they don't do anything in the city, it's like we, you know.
So would we be okay? I've read them before coming here. It seems like we can make that request.
Okay, it's something like, what we're looking at is, and you might want to explain it, Julian, as far as trying to get inner city housing, but then that includes, we were looking at maybe loans by either the city or an entity or private.
Privateurs.
Right.
There's multiple
Where
funding
we
sources.
could look at maybe doing some no-interest loans or low-interest loans.
That are forgivable.
To incentivize residential housing downtown. But it's sort of, I guess last time we talked about, should we take it to staff first and then go to city council, or should we take it to city council to direct us to go through staff, to city staff? So I don't know what y'all's, how y'all feel about that.
Well, the thing about going to staff is that I don't think it's so that we're working with an interim city manager instead of, and so we won't know, so maybe we ought to go directly to the council. I don't know how long we're not gonna have a city manager. That's my only question.
That was my opinion. Well, my opinion was more directed towards, I think the city council needs to direct staff to start
So
working
just
towards
to make
this.
just to get a motion on the city council, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Councilman Martinez?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so Mr. Dickey makes a motion that we go to city council. I'm sorry?
Where on the agenda are we? The
We're on the minutes.
We're on the minutes.
Okay.
We're on the minutes. So if you go to the second page,
No,
I
because
think
this is a comment about approving the minutes or
this is
making
approving the minutes. So the question there is, do we amend the minutes? Because there was a motion, and if you look at the second page, to present the inner city housing incentive policy to city staff for recommendation and adoption as amended. what Mr. Rupnowski wants us to do is to go to city
Amend the
council
city
and
council.
to have them direct city staff to look at these incentive city housing, incentive policy as far as funding.
Yeah, so just, I guess a clarification on this. So your portion of the agenda right now where you're discussing minutes, I believe it's to clarify any inconsistencies with what happened at whatever meeting that the minutes were taken in. And I don't believe procedurally, you're allowed to make any motions other than for clarification or approving or disapproving or clarifying. I know the intent, I can hear the intent, but I just don't think you can use that as the vehicle to do that within the acceptance of the minutes portion.
Okay, and like right now, it's not on the agenda.
That's correct.
So what we can do maybe for this coming month is to, why don't we, let's meet with city staff and let's iron out a lot of these issues.
That's
And
perfectly
then,
fine.
and then next month, we can bring it up. I think one of the things we want to do is to ensure that there's progress made, you know what I mean? We
Sure.
don't want it to stall, so I was starting to think about like Arturo Garcia, that maybe we can talk to him next week, we can get together, Julian, and let's see if we can have some meetings. And then next month, let's bring it up. How does that sound?
I think what I'm hearing from city is what should happen is there should be a motion to approve the minutes.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes as is. Second, Mr. Dickey, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Very good, very good. Next item on the agenda is a presentation by Andrew Carranco on the Laredo World Free Trade Plaza. That's the old Mercy Hospital. So, Andrew?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you, John, for inviting me to give this presentation, and thank you for inviting my father and I to give this presentation. It's a real pleasure to speak to you all and kind of give you an update and kind of give you an idea of what's going on. About a year and a half ago, no, almost 2 years ago, well, a year and a half ago, there was an ad hoc committee appointed to oversee the hospital and see what was going on. In the middle of this, at the time, the Laredo Development Foundation, now known as the Laredo Economic Development Corporation, gave us a call and said, how can we help? It's our job to help incentivize and help developers develop and improve the economics of our city. And we sat down with them and we kind of bantered some ideas. And they said, well, we have some contacts and we can introduce you, we could show you some places outside of Laredo that might have an interest in helping the old Mercy, or maybe buying it or doing what they will. So we were introduced to a group in Houston that took significant interest not only in the hospital but in Laredo as a whole. And for those of you who have worked with folks outside of Laredo, you know how the process goes. It's the first 3 months is usually introducing them to what Laredo is, and that Laredo is not just another town on the border. It's the second largest port in the United States. This fellow we met, Longal, in Houston, saw Laredo. He did his research. He came. We met with him in Houston several times, and then he finally decided to come down to Laredo and check it out for himself. When he came to Laredo, he was greeted not only by us, but he was greeted by the Laredo Economic Development Corporation, the city manager, the mayor, and was introduced to how strong our community is and how important this project is, or any project to happen at site would be. He was really taken back with that. And at that point, we went to go look at the hospital, and he said, this is where it has to be. And at the time, we really weren't quite sure what he wanted to do, and he said, what do you want to do here? He says, I want to do a trade center here. I want to do a trade center that will link the Far East and China to Mexico and NAFTA, and I want Laredo to be the crosshairs of this. That was back last October, about 6 months ago. And was it 6 months ago? 5 months ago. In November, we met with him a couple of times past that, and in November we agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding that would lead to us partnering to do the hospital building and do it as called the Laredo World Free Trade Plaza. And he announced this at the opening of what he likes to call his hobby, his restaurant, Peking Duck Houston. Mr. Gal's background is actually manufacturing. He's from Shanghai, He does manufacturing of fabrics, and as such, he was involved with several commercial organizations in Shanghai. And he came to Houston, and to Canada to open up a couple of restaurants to see what he could do. He enjoys cooking, particularly Peking duck. And I can say, as someone who's enjoyed the Peking duck, that it's absolutely delicious. And I expect fully to gain the weight I'm trying to lose once again. Either way, he came to Houston to kind of explore what the business environment was like and to open up his restaurant and to kind of get a sense of what it's like to be here in the United States. What we intend to do with the World Trade Plaza, or the World Free Trade Plaza, is we want to create a place where Laredo has always historically been a north-south oriented commercial port. That is, we go north and south, and that's just about it. We want to add a third dimension to that. We want to add an east-west dimension. That literally puts us in the crosshairs. We're in a really quite an advantageous place, not just to compete with San Antonio, but to seriously compete with Los Angeles for being the largest port in the United States. So we can incorporate our third largest trading partner, which is going to be China. If you recall, Los Angeles right now has a severe overload. Long Beach cannot handle what it has right now. Lázaro Cárdenas is about reaching capacity. They're working on expansion, and Manzanillo is trying to take over that. If you want to get to the United States, whether you're in Lázaro Cárdenas or Manzanillo, you come through Laredo. And the ideal port, and the ports they trade with are Shanghai, Bangkok, Tokyo, Hong Kong. Laredo can be the place for that. So how do we intend to do this, and how do we intend to capture that? Our goal here is we'd like to create the trade center to be a place where we can essentially facilitate folks to meet each other on a human basis. Quite often you have folks from China come to the United States, interested in doing work in Latin America, but are not confident enough to go into Latin America. You have folks coming from Latin America who want to do work in the Far East, or even in the United States, and don't feel comfortable going to the north. Laredo is a natural port, not only for shipping, but for cultural port to interchange that area. If you're from China, you want to be able to go to a place where you can speak English, where you know that your dollar is going to be safe. The United States provides that. If you're coming in from Mexico, you don't want to go all the way to China or the Far East. You want to go to a place where you know your dollar is going to be safe, and you know you can do in a familiar environment. That's Laredo. We want to capture that. We're going to set up 500,000 square foot offices. Now, actually, before I get into that, these plans here are still being worked on. We were actually, matter of fact, as soon as we finish here, we're going up to Houston to go meet with Mr. Galligan. We are still working on the particular details, but the concept is such that we intend to have 500 to 1,000 square foot offices with major corporations from Latin America and from the Far East, particularly China and Mexico, and American companies to be stationed here in Laredo and essentially offer a platform on the sixth floor of the building where they can meet up and they can have those conversations. To this extent, we're working with the city of Laredo, filing for a free trade zone area, an FTZ, so that we can, the point is not to store the products in the hospital, the point is to sign the contracts there so that tariffs won't be applicable to any sort of transaction that goes on there. The material itself will be stored in warehouses around Laredo. That means that the development of the hospital is not just going to benefit the Heights, which it's going to do tremendously, and I'll go into detail here in a minute how the Heights will be benefiting, but for our trade organizations here in Laredo, we're expecting more trucks, we're expecting more use of warehouse space. That is what we're good at, and that's what we're best at. And hopefully we can not only be good at providing those services in Laredo, providing those services, we hope that Laredo can help back that up. The free trade zone is also going to incorporate what we're going to call a free trade marketplace. That free trade marketplace, in addition to those 1,000 square foot offices, is essentially going to be an area where these companies, not just the ones who have 1,000 square offices, but those who want to have an opportunity to showcase their items, will be able to bring items here as samples. In order to do that, they have to be a tax-free, there's a process to do that, as our customs brokers know, but if we have it in a free trade zone, that helps make those processes that much easier. So it's going to be under, that area will be under tight guard, but it's to incentivize people to come and say, well, you know, I want to buy steel from Mexico, I can go see what sort of steel products they have there at the World Free Trade Center, or Plaza. If I want to go to...
Excuse me, so is it just gonna be commercial, or it's gonna be a mixed use? Is there gonna be residential, or maybe I'm getting ahead of
Forest
myself?
trade zone can be mixed use.
Exactly, and that's where I'm getting off to. That's a great point, John. Let me everybody out. What we have here, the primary purpose of the hospital will be commercial. That's, you know, we still have a commercial transaction. But the second question to all of this, of course, is how is the Heights and the people of the Heights going to benefit? The Heights is where my father grew up, where my grandparents still had, until recently had their homes, where I spent so much time growing up. What we want to incorporate, and actually, is there a way we can put this onto the, show this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take that one out.
Somebody's?
Yeah, it's, Eddie Vettel's, you can street it right here.
Interesting freeze frame.
I know, I go, let me see it out there.
Great, and just that
Thank you.
first file there.
Yes, I don't know, I'm really good.
Use the,
See that?
Well, Andrew's working on that. If I can just add some points here. You know, we've been working really close with Laredo Development Foundation. And really, they're the first individuals who got us talking to the Chinese. And without them, we wouldn't be here right now. But I want you to think that they didn't bring us to this guy.
Is there a mouse?
We met with 8 different Chinese groups
Is there a mouse?
that finally got us to this one individual.
There we go.
I wish I could have said it was that easy. We got the first guy and he came on board. And I don't know if you realize this, but do you know how hard it is to get somebody to invest $50 million in Laredo, Texas? This is the kind of things that you hear. $50 million, we can invest it anywhere in the world. And if we're gonna invest it in the United States, we're gonna invest it in Manhattan, in San Francisco, possibly Houston. Why Laredo? And what we explained to him was, because you have no competition in Laredo. You have enormous competition in Manhattan, Los Angeles, Houston. You have no competition in Laredo. And we're the biggest port. And we can put in all these products from China and around the world, and you get to choose who comes in and who doesn't. And he liked the idea, but he doesn't speak English. So his translator says, and so that's the reason. And I said, yeah, it's a very good reason. And then he tells me, oh, well, Mr. Gao's best friend has a free trade zone mall in Milan, Italy. My reply was, tell Mr. Gao that we can kick his best friend's ass. And so he says, we don't say that in China. I said, well, I'll tell him. So he comes back and he says, Mr. Gao says that no, he likes the idea that he'll do better than his friend. I said, did you tell him that he can kick his ass? And he said, no. I said, well, tell him. And he looks down because he doesn't look at him in the eyes, and he tells him that we're going to kick his ass. At that point, he stretched his arm, shook my hand, and said, you got a deal. Wow. It's all about ego. He says 50 million is a small project for us. It's not a big project. We came back with, we have all of Central America, South America, Mexico, and there's nobody to compete with us. And we have to do it spectacular, first class. The World Trade Center is in New York, as you know, the old Twin Towers, in Los Angeles, and Boston. Andrew already made inquiries to be part of that. It's gonna cost $250,000 just to be a member, and then a yearly quota. And it's a nonprofit. The only thing you do is exchange ideas. It's much like a country club where we have reciprocal agreements with other country clubs. All the people that do business there will be able to do business.
So how is the funding gonna, I mean, you said he's a very wealthy man, 50 million. I guess, does he have venture capitalists, or, I mean, as far as him having the funding in place to do a transaction, or are they gonna first buy the property from you guys, or?
No, John, in that regard, they're setting up a fund in Hong Kong. The person doesn't speak English, but he's a resident alien in the United States. So for all intended and purposes, he's an American. But
He speaks numbers, right?
Yeah, he speaks numbers. He's gonna have there's a fund that's set up. And once, he just wants two things: that we have a free trade zone designation, and that they get tax incentives. And when we brought him to Laredo, as you can, Andrew can tell you more detail if you want, but he went everywhere. When he came to Laredo, when he came to see the hospital, he brought an architect. He spent all day, went through the entire building with his architect and his structural engineer. And they gave the building an okay. It's gonna last 250 years, guys. This is not a matchbox kind of building. Then we saw every single industrial park. The city manager, Kent Richards, opened the door, put out the red carpet. We were there all afternoon looking at the trucks. We went to all the industrial parks. Then he wanted to see all the neighborhoods. We took him from, the Plantation and J Estates and, Winfield, and we took him all the way to the south. What he envisions there, aside from the trade zone, is a multi-use building, John. We're setting up a private club. For those of you who don't know, I was one of the founding members of the executive club with David Killam and Dennis Nixon and the Walkers and a few others. That there was 30 of us that set up. I had 2 shares of the 30, and because we felt a need for it. What we want to do is a one-stop shop when it comes to import-exports. We have not the entire federal government there, but an office for customs, an office for agriculture, because they cross animals and vegetables and all kinds of stuff. Even immigration, anything that deals with import-export, we want to have a one location. So we have someone from the city of Laredo there, from the county, from the Laredo Development Foundation, from the chamber, the police, everything you can possibly think of. And then once they meet in the different meeting rooms that they can lease, or whoever has their products, and of course they can't have all their products, but they have their catalogs. And I'll give you a good example. We have a client, and we have a lot of clients in Mexico. One of our clients produces plastics. I don't know if you remember the Lucas Pelucas, the little top thing. Well, those guys were our clients, and their uncle produced the plastic. He's a client of ours too. And when I told him the idea, he says, I want to be there. Because right now he's in Los Angeles and he's in Illinois, and that's it.
So right now, how many of those commitments, I mean,
We haven't started, John, but I'm just going to give you one example. This guy manufactures all the wrappers for Mars candies. All of them. I mean, these guys aren't little guys, they're huge. And we've talked to other clients from Mexico. They said, we want to be there because they're interested in selling into the United States. So we're not looking at, like Andrew said, we already have north and south. We want to get the east and the west, but we want to make it easier because these guys, they're trying to find people to go talk to them. They want to be at a place where somebody can actually come and see them and deal with Texas companies. I'll give you an example. H-E-B loves Mexican food, but they don't want a Mexican invoice. They want an American invoice. That's exactly what we're going to provide here. If an American buys something from China, he doesn't really want a Chinese invoice. We're going to have set up Texas corporations that's going to invoice here. It's going to make it so much easier.
Trading company.
Exactly.
So what's the next, okay, so February 24th was like the date where...
23rd.
The 23rd was the date that I guess y'all going to enter into an earnest money contract, or I mean, because as y'all know, you see, 17 years at the hospital, or I don't know, 18, I don't know how many years. 18 that has been vacant. So we're coming to a stage now, so when is this thing gonna, what is the time frame?
And let me just say something before.
Yeah.
John, I'm sorry I didn't address your, the multi-use purpose. We talked about the private business club where people can actually have meeting rooms and talk, but a place to eat. We're planning on having restaurants in the location, Starbucks and things of the like. When it comes to the free trade zone, it's got to be locked up and people can't be coming in and out. They have to have strict inventories. But in the other locations, we can open it up to have, one of the items they're going to bring is groceries. A good example that we gave him is he smokes Chinese cigarettes, and the only place he can get them is in Las Vegas. So we explained to him, look, you bring them to Laredo. From Laredo, they sell them to Houston and all the stores everywhere. The guy had a smile from here to here. He understands the whole concept. Go ahead, Andrew.
February 23rd is our signing date. We were going to do it during the WBCA, but we don't want to be doing that in the middle of that. But we're still going to sign on the 23rd.
So you're signing what?
We're going to sign a contract that says, providing we get two things. The free trade zone designation, which Dennis gave us the name of the best law firm in all of the United States to get it. And the second is tax incentives. So we're not going to have that done by the 23rd, and we don't want to be with a governor saying we're doing that. Yes, sir.
I'll tell you a little bit of the foreign trade zone.
Okay.
In the past, it was only the airport. Then the airport wanted to expand, and that's when the Killam said, no. I'm opposing to that, and then they asked them why. Because I want some, so that then the Killam Industrial Park as part of the foreign trade zone. Now, all Lake County is foreign trade zone, but you have to activate the
Exactly.
property. So you don't have a problem with that, but I think this committee can help you put a package together to get that, what you need, and
Like that.
Fred, let me address you.
Incentive. Are you aware of the NEC we have?
Yes, but let me just finish that, if I may. We know everyone's busy and now with the lack of a city manager, but we're actually talking about a month and a half ago. Fred, I won't forget your question. We've been trying to get the airport to set up a meeting with us, and we haven't done it. They haven't set up a meeting with us after a month and something, right, Andrew?
and they just lost Mr. Maldonado.
Maybe after 2 months, we haven't had a response from them. We need some letters to be signed by them, not opposing it. We can do it through the city, but
There's a fee for that, here in the city.
Yeah.
Sure.
$1,000 fee.
right, that's no problem. But, like talking to Dennis and Jerry Schwebel, they recommended that we do our own, so that we're under the city, but we're not just under the city. But we need help with that, city managers, to get them to meet with us.
Well, send, if you may, sorry, but if you may, just send the request directly to our offices.
Sure.
Please.
Okay,
Not to the.
we'll do that.
Yeah, they're hard
And-
to
We
see.
do have, however, have an acting acting airport director. We just assigned Elsie yesterday. And so,
Maldonado.
Elsie's in charge now?
acting.
She's acting.
Awesome, okay.
She's acting,
Yeah,
so we
she's
do
the one
have
in
someone
charge
who
of
will
all
provide
this.
direction.
Okay, great, we'll talk to her.
Wonderful.
And Fred, as far as the tax incentives, yes, we're in the empowerment zone,
Right,
but we
you want more.
So what is
want,
that? What is more?
more is something that the city has already done. We're not asking for anything out in Mars, and we don't want to do a hotel motel tax increase or something like
So
that.
what has the city already done that you guys are pursuing?
Well, we asked
Besides
for,
the
good question. What we did is we asked through Opens Record Act for a contract with what we did with Horizon and the outlet malls, so we can use that as a guideline. Mr. Gao's gonna put in 50 million. I think they put in about 100. And I said, so I'm not sure how many years they got. We think it's 30. So, I said, you'll probably get 20, 25, maybe 15. And he says, if I have to put 100, we'll put in 100. So we can get the 30
The 30,
years of abatement.
Well, we don't know that, Dave.
But he hasn't made a commitment yet.
I have a question about any
But-
type of abatement.
But he,
So this is, because I'm sure the city would like to know, you have an abatement for so long, which is fine if they give it, and there's nothing wrong with the abatements, but how much more is that going to generate in business where the city would make up for that abatement?
Let me answer this, Dad. We're looking anywhere between 400 and 500 jobs being created. Of those 400 to 500 jobs, half of them will require a college degree. That's your flat answer.
400 to 500 temporary or permanent?
Permanent jobs. Temporary jobs, I don't know what that number is going to look like. I haven't done the construction numbers yet. We're looking at having anywhere between 100 to 200 offices, and they're employing anywhere between 2 and 6 people
That was just my
apiece.
question, because the city's going, it's okay.
Yeah.
If you're asking for this, but we're gonna give up an income here that we need for certain operations and.
well,
And I just wanted to comment on something so that you won't waste time or, because time is of the essence.
yes.
So it was not a tax abatement that we provided to El Portal Mall. It was a 380 agreement. And so if you're looking for abatement information, that is not the contract to look for. Just FYI.
Okay.
so
Just a
you can, I guess you can sort of layer the NEZ, which is a 10-year
Yes.
abatement, and then layer it with the 380.
That's correct.
Okay.
And with the new updates to the NEZ that we approved, it would actually bump it from 10 to 15 if we get that, so that gets you half the way.
Wow, that's great, Julian.
So-
Well, and
Now, that's only on the lift,
Okay, yeah.
right? Not what you're,
Yes, so whatever it's valued at now, it gets frozen for
Right.
15 years.
right, that's exactly right. And one of the things that he said is, hey, but doing the outlet malls should have been an easy thing. They're by the river, they're downtown, that's where people shop. We're looking at a neighborhood that's dying.
Not necessarily, but it is.
Well,
It's not healthy. It's
no,
not healthy.
no, well, that's what he said, and we need to revive the entire neighborhood.
Sure.
And you want me to put in 50 million in a location like that? Hey, it's not a big sell. Put me downtown and in the middle of everything, hey, that would be great. But we explained to him that being in a location like that is really an advantage, because we intend to buy surrounding properties to put into this project. We're gonna put in apartments, right, Andrew? He doesn't only want us to have people put products and offices and sell. He wants to include apartments so they can live there And so they can use a Starbucks, so they can use the restaurants, a Chinese convention, a business, convenience store, and so forth. They want to bring in a lot of Chinese food as well. to
So in
export.
addition to all this, John, this kind of goes back full circle to what we were talking about. The heights will be affected insofar as we're going to try to isolate traffic to Corpus Christi, which is already a minor arterial, as understood. And in addition to that, we're looking at putting a plaza here. We don't know where to put the apartment buildings here or on the other
Nothing's
side
gonna
of
be
the road.
demolished, right? There's an older section of the hospital and the newer section,
So the
right?
hospital is built into 4 sections. You have a 1954 section, a 1963 section, a 1962 section, and a 1984 section. None of those areas will be demolished. There may be select demolition if some places, but that's still to be seen. The goal, though, primarily is to add a plaza here for the neighbors to use, and we hope we really want to make it inviting that they can have a place where they can congregate. We want to create a place where you can live, work, and play, as the mantra goes.
What percentage of the usable square footage, or the square footage, will most likely be residential versus commercial?
So the actual building itself, we're not intending to use anything for residential, we want to keep that strictly for business. We
Okay.
want to create new apartments around the property, so there will be new construction.
And
So when you were talking about apartments, we were very interested in hearing that.
Yeah.
so, a couple of,
That's-
go ahead. I was gonna say, just a couple of things if I may. Number one, my experience with the World Trade Zones, both in New York and Los Angeles, are essentially what you guys are talking about, which is, multi-use places. The new World Trade Center, or World Tower, whatever it's called, has a few floors that are multi-use, right, that you get to go to and do all that stuff, but what's grown around them is the residential spaces that you guys are talking about. And one of the things I really like about this plan is that this doesn't, a lot of times people think that when you're developing Laredo that you have to take a piece of a pie. But one of the reasons I like Laredo for development is that it's just so open. It's like a blank slate. And so you're not taking a piece of the pie, you're making the pie bigger. And I think what this does is tie in well with what Miss Julian is doing downtown, because Corpus to me seems to be the type of street that would allow for a lot of biking, walkability, pedestrian between downtown and this area, especially for work, if they come with this particular developer, a Chinese culture that is big into biking and pedestrian. And so I think these two projects, if they go forward, are very complementary and will not just take a piece of each other's pie, but will actually make the Laredo pie bigger. And so I'm glad you guys are presenting, and I wish you guys a lot of success, and if you need anything from us,
Joe, it's not
please let us
easy,
know.
what we're doing.
I know it's not easy, I know it's not easy.
But
I know
you're
it's
right
not easy.
on point, because years ago, we chose Frank and Viviana to be our architects, not only for the good work they do and their vision, but I've worked with them on a lot of nonprofits, and as you know, I'm very involved in the community, and we need people with vision. We need people that have ideas, that think outside the box. And as a matter of fact, Sugar went with us yesterday. Joseph, forgive me. Sugar went with us yesterday with the Franks.
Now I know I'm the real Joe, thanks.
Maybe, or what's?
Because we need to start from the bridge, from the highway, and we need to have not only signs, but
Inviting street way pathfinding.
way pathfinding. You know, where you've seen them in all these larger cities. They have a pole with a special colored light, and you just follow them and you get to where you're going. And we asked Frank and Viviana to incorporate putting city sidewalks, which a lot of the area in the Eastern Division doesn't have sidewalks, to put in sidewalks and bike lanes to be used to be able to get to that building. Because we're gonna have other amenities, like we said, restaurants, coffee shops, everything else. And then we're gonna have the same people that live there renting as part of their contract with the commercial and living there. So That's gonna help out the whole community. There'll be, maybe bring back some of the doctors and some of the other, hairstylists and things like that to build it up.
Is the housing secondary or contingent with all this?
It's going to be contingent in all this. One of his primary concerns is if we're going to bring folks from out of Laredo, he wants them to be able to be close to there so they can. It's almost like a landing pad, Julian. So he wants to see housing half really dedicated for people who want to be working there, and then half for anything else.
So that's part of the phase one of all this project?
Yeah, it will be part of phase one.
Okay, because then that's where all these incentives should actually tie back into. Because there aren't any or at least from what we've approved out here, there aren't any incentives for just office, but for living quarters there would be.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things is, sounds all great, but the thing is, we don't want to get this project and then we're a year, 2 years down the road and we really haven't done anything. I know that the councilman here wants, things to move. There's the people there, they're frustrated because, no offense, but, it's been an eyesore.
No.
And so what is the time, so on the 23rd, there's gonna be a contract that's gonna be signed, but it's gonna be contingent upon the World Trade Zone and the incentives.
and
So how long is that gonna take before you can start breaking ground? Or there needs to be some, I know there was some city code violations, are that gonna be?
I think that's all premature. I think we need to.
Right, no, but that's why I'm asking them.
Yeah. So let's make.
Cal does not know this yet, but tell him our plan.
So let's make a very big assumption. Let's assume that we can have tax incentives will take at least 4 weeks, or the incentives will take at least 4 weeks to get approved, because you have to do a reading at one council meeting and you have to do a reading at a second council meeting. So that's already a month there. You have one meeting which we're not going to be able to meet, which is before Washington. One meeting, we're going to be in Washington the week after for the next council meeting. So we're not going to have our first reading until March 15th, if we're lucky. Assuming that you can make that date, you're looking at a April the 1st date for a second reading. Our goal originally was to have a shovel in the ground at the end of March. I would still like to see if we can make that deadline. All that being said, once we receive both of those things, I think because the FTZ is a procedural matter, that can be taken care of. We still need to negotiate on the incentives, whether it's a tax incentive or infrastructure or an 380. When we have those things, the two things done, I can expect to have a shovel in the ground within a month after that, if everything goes right.
So we're hoping maybe by mid-year that.
Yes,
by mid-year,
sooner. But John, we were going to do it on March the 1st, but in talking with Andrew and being involved with I was the president of the Jalapeno Festival years and years ago, because we needed something for the poor people. Everything was for the rich. We were broke. Anyway, what we did, and Mark, you remember working with us on those projects in the 80s? Early 80s. What's your job?
I'm sorry, excuse me, I have a doctor's appointment that I
Sure.
need to go to that I already rescheduled. So I
A
apologize.
facelift, go for it.
Let me tell.
Okay. Anyway,
Y'all have my contact info. Look,
Yeah.
let me know if you need anything from me.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay,
Let's keep it straight.
okay, what I was gonna say was that if we sign there, it's gonna be page 15 news, because it's gonna be Mr. South Texas and everything. And we're not gonna accomplish what we're doing. There was a shutdown of the federal government on the 21st, and then we lost our city manager, and now we have all this stuff, so we're not.
Okay, so it's not something that's gonna take,
No, we
it's not-
wanted-
I mean,
Well,
We wanted-
the only concern is that you've got a lot of disruption moving on in the city management, because there's not a manager.
No, but we
We have
have
acting managers.
we
The main thing for me is just, I guess there's gonna be a change
not a
of
matter.
there's gonna be a change of ownership and all that, so that's gonna take,
So we do have, there is an advantage here, and so.
I mean, I don't wanna sort of pry into something that maybe I shouldn't, but.
I'll tell you.
If, right, you'll let me know.
I'm gonna tell you right now, what's going on is that our plan is to sign the contract before the 23rd, so we can get it to the city before the 23rd. And it's gonna say, we're doing this
It's a
project.
earnest money contract, or what type of
It's a
contract?
contract that says, subject to getting some tax incentives and subject to the FTC, which we should be able to get, we're gonna do this. Once we get everything done, then we do a signing project. When we sign in Houston, he brought the president of Rice University and his wife, the mayor pro tem of Houston, because the mayor was out on Thanksgiving. He brought in 3 council generals, 3 state reps. I mean, these guys do things big. And so what we're thinking now is maybe we go sign, once we get all our clearances with the governor in Austin, bring in Henry and our state legislatures there, the city council and the city managers to go there and do a formal signing, because we want this to be there. When we went in Houston, they had 3 Chinese newspapers.
We were featured in essentially the CNN of China, which is the Xinhua news agency. We were also featured in China Daily.
We're not dealing with somebody who's a little bit fly by night.
Right.
Now, the other thing is, John, there's a misnomer, and maybe there isn't, but I want to set the record straight. I've owned the building 18 years. John, as my banker, you know, I was making a lot of money back in those days. But back in the days when Carlos was here, when I lost a lawsuit and some other things, I asked Carlos to clean the place up because I'm embarrassed and ashamed of the way it looks. I asked him, you have the manpower, you have the equipment, you have the money. Give me a second, Andrew. Because this is important, son, this is very important. I asked him to clean it and put liens on my property. And it wasn't done. I'm not blaming anybody, I'm not here pointing fingers. What's done is done. But my family and I are very embarrassed at the way it looks. And John, it's not like I didn't try to sell it, I tried everything.
Right. No, well, the good thing is, we're gonna move forward.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're gonna have to move on, because we've got another.
You have other items, okay.
I don't know if there's any other questions.
I think we can
Councilman, I don't
help you
know.
out as a committee and put a
Híjole.
package together for the city. Vámonos. That's what we're supposed to
I
do.
think,
Let's ask the
can
city, how fast can this move through, like some of this stuff?
Yeah,
They sign.
Well, first we need the document in hand, right? So we need
Sure.
that active application completed. That needs to go through our processes, which includes not just management, but legal review, right?
It's already in legal hands right now.
Okay, so,
Now,
management, we
the
haven't.
city has a legal.
Yes, they have you have the application for the FTZ in hand.
No, I was talking the abatements, the incentives.
yeah, have you
FTC
submitted to the
is-
city on that?
No, that's what we're gonna do next Friday.
Right.
We're waiting for the
That's what we're gonna do next.
Freedom of Information.
Well, that's what we're doing next, that's,
He doesn't need it.
that's what we're doing.
Freedom of information, he doesn't need it.
Mr. Eads, that's what we're doing next Friday with you. We have an appointment scheduled with you next Friday.
Okay.
So that's when we're gonna present the formal documents.
Okay. So, yeah, so I would go through our processes, but then again, that's all dependent on council directive.
Right.
So they'll establish whatever guidelines would apply and whatever would be granted. I mean, there's a lot of tools that can be used in a toolbox, but ultimately the city council is going to be able to decide.
You're right, sign
And
off.
there's gotta be that balance where it's
Right.
an investment, at the same time, you wanna get a return, the city wants a return on their
Naturally.
investment. Well, very good.
Right.
Anything else, because I know we have to
Do we
move
need to
on
make a
to
motion
other.
for anything, or?
If anything, I would motion to, if you guys can come back once you're further along with the city, or anything you may need further help on, but also include these, I think this is, so just to answer this, we're talking about the incentives. The outlet mall, the reason that abatement was most likely given is because the city looks at that, but then also looks at the sales tax.
Right.
For this, I can see an easy abatement if you guys can show some form of estimate saying, you know, this many jobs with this average salary, because that makes you, the city may not initially be getting money back directly, but the community
But it-
would be
it
benefiting.
has
So having that
multiplying factor.
information would be great if you can bring that back. So, that, my motion is for them to.
Time out, Mr. Eads.
I'm sorry, just again, structurally, the way that you have your agenda read,
Okay.
these are merely presentations, all 3 of your items have no action.
Okay.
that can be allowed through them.
No, but
So I guess we need to next time.
but we would ask y'all to come back, when you've got this thing signed or whatever, you
Right.
know, then come back and hope that some city staff would be here.
Right, it's not to say that action won't happen, right, but I'm just saying procedurally,
So I guess
parliamentary
next time we
procedure.
have a presentation and potential action.
Discussion possible action.
Okay, that's fine.
Very good. So, but anyway, I guess we do want you.
We want you back.
In another meeting, so we can.
Unofficially.
No, we hope.
And I just want you to know, for both city managers, I want you to know that we're an open book. You can call us. Every time we've had people that wanted to buy, we invited Alex Perez, Dr. Landick before him, and the mayor to come and meet the people we wanted. The last time Alex Perez and Chuy Olivares changed the B4 zoning not to allow, we were gonna put a federal courthouse, federal offices, and a detention center like Shiloh. They changed the B4 zoning, so
But now
to
we're
stop
gonna-
us.
But now we'll
And we're
have,
not complaining, I'm just telling you, it's not like we don't wanna sell this.
Right, right.
It's been uphill, and I'm glad we got new leadership,
Thank you.
and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Yvette Fernandez, you have the floor.
If I can borrow the mouse real quick just to open up.
You might want to change the
Drive.
drive there to the red.
It might be already here.
Already there.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be very brief because I also have to run to another meeting. My name is Yvette Fernandez. I'm the Dean of Workforce Education for Laredo College. I was extended the invitation by Dr. Rodney Rodriguez, who's a member here of the committee. And in conversations with him and with Dr. Ricardo Solis, our president, we're very keen on development of, obviously the community, but also the workforce development. All these projects are great, but they need workforce, right? So Rodney, and I'll get straight to the point, Rodney had mentioned the revitalization project of downtown. And I think there's a way where we can collaborate with our students, our workforce students, and maybe be a part of that revitalization project. If I can, I don't know how you would switch. Thank you. Just to give you a brief overview of I'll get straight to the programs. These are the different programs that we have under the workforce education division. We have business education, child development, culinary arts, computer technology. Within those departments, we have various programs, right? And then in some areas, for example, in computer technology, the top one is computer information systems. In some programs, even that is broken up into different areas, cybersecurity, computer maintenance, and other specialties. We continue with industrial technology, transportation technology, and protective services. Right? So the one I'm keen on developing and with these collaborations is industrial technology. Right. In the past, we've collaborated with Habitat for Humanity and other community agencies where our students go out there and they do the actual work. They do the engineering, they do the HVAC installation from start to finish. Right. So this is actually one of the Habitat homes. Again, these are the current collaborations. We'll do work for local veterans who might need their house to be rewired because it's not in code. We'll go and do that. Everything is free of charge. Right, so there's a lot of benefits to this. Mainly, the main benefit would be the exposure that the student gets to the actual learning environment. They're actually doing the work, right? So we have great labs in our facilities, but there's no way that you can replicate what they'll see out there, right? So that's what we're looking forward to maybe a possible collaboration with you guys. I'm not really sure the details of the revitalization project, but I'm assuming that at some point there's going to have to be some electrical work, some duct work, some HVAC work, where our students can learn hands-on skills.
Can I ask a question? Has there been any partnerships with Mile One on the incubators in there?
Yes, actually, one of our students has an incubator there in the HVAC area. Right?
Okay.
She's running it out of there. Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can tell for needs in the business community, or my business, is applied accounting. We went to Workforce Commission. It took us about 3 months to get somebody that knew exactly what they were doing. Everybody, and it's not you all, but they're screening. They kept sending me people that worked at at warehousing and, you know, documenting stuff and aduanales and that, and it didn't fit. We wanted, you know, somebody can do books and
Fred, you're looking for like an accounting, bookkeeping kind of guy?
a lady, we just hired one yesterday.
Because we have a bunch
In-house,
of,
we have it.
yeah, we have a bunch of applications,
Mhm.
and if you haven't hired them, I can
Well,
send you.
next time, you know.
Let me know, we'll
I
send it
will.
to, anybody needs, we get a bunch of applicants, and like everybody else, we want to help everyone that we can.
Sure.
Well, the Workforce Commission didn't just, I don't know.
So you can come straight to the source, and we'll be happy to refer, you know, the students to
Yeah,
us.
somebody can,
Yes, sir.
you know, do, I mean, it just kind of T-squares, you'd know that, I mean, that we just know in and out and.
And
Accounts
another thing,
Like
receivable.
Mr. Hernandez, like he says, sometimes he has problems trying to find people in his industry.
they can contact us
It's
directly.
T account.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
you book your invoices and you book when you pay them, you book, you know, it's just
They,
simple.
you can contact us directly. Well, one of the main goals that I have for the division is we have to provide hands-on training, so when they graduate their program, they're ready to do the work.
Just move in and do it,
Go in and do
okay.
it. And that's why we want to offer these types of experiences. What you see here, another benefit is that it cut costs to, you know, to whoever is taking on our students or hosting our students. We save on material, right? So welding is one of the most expensive programs that we have. This is a ranch outside of Cotula for a veteran, and we go out there, we do this work for them. We don't waste money on materials, you know, we don't waste money on expendables, and the students get the real-world experience, right? So
Are these two-year programs?
they range, so our programs start from 1 semester all the way to 2 years. So it depends really where the student wants to exit out, right? So, again, I invite you all to contact us if you see there's a room for collaboration, by all means contact us. We're very excited. We're just down the road from downtown here. We're up the road from downtown. And the idea would be for our students to go out there, the instructor will go out there with them and just provide the instruction right there and at the location. That's pretty much what they do at these Habitat homes. You know, rather than being in the classroom, they take the board out there and they're actually seeing their calculations, right? So you're teaching a student how to calculate how many wires fit in a box, and they see it right there, right? So it's very exciting. The students, it's helped a lot with our retention. They pick up the concept a lot quicker if they're actually seeing it and doing it. Right? And we're planning on doing this with all our programs, right? But the ones that we kind of spearheaded it with our electrical and HVAC and welding programs. So,
No, absolutely.
and if there's any leads, but like you mentioned, the Laredo Builders Association, you know, we can reach out to them.
Absolutely.
Do you have
Let me
a
know
card?
if you need any help.
Do you have a card?
Yes,
Very good. Are there any other questions for Mr., I don't know, Mr. Hernandez, have you finished or you?
yes, sir, that's pretty much it.
Is there anything else for Mr. Hernandez?
Actually, that was one of the reasons why we wanted Ronnie in this committee is if somebody approaches the city and they're looking for some type of special need of welders or whatever, or a company that wants to set up shop, that Mr. East comes here and explains what they need.
Sure.
So that we can give them exactly what they're looking for.
And I know
put a
Rod-
package together, whatever
Sure.
they need.
And our president and Rodney are very keen on economic development and workforce development. And, you know, that's our forte, and I, you know, want to develop the best possible product that we can. Right? But we do need the input from businesses, right? Like, you know, hey, we need them to learn this, and that. Our curriculum and workforce is pretty, we can implement whatever you guys need, right?
Like
we're not-
Mandarin language.
But you can just imagine all the construction jobs that they're gonna need.
There's a
if
lot of
this
need on that.
development.
As a businessman, can I make a comment?
Sure.
One of the things that we're looking at when we said about everything dealing with import-export, and it also includes logistics, there's a need of 300,000 truck drivers. These guys make $75,000 to $90,000 a year. We don't want our youth that can become doctors, attorneys, CPAs, engineers, to be anything other than that. But the kids that don't have the capacity to do
Not
that.
everybody's college material is what you're saying.
Exactly. But we should have 10 different schools of showing kids how to drive trucks.
Very
I'm telling you, because we have hundreds of clients, and they're all saying the same thing, we can't find any
You
truck
know what,
drivers.
a lot of the smaller truck companies here in Laredo, you ask some of them, 80% or more are Mexican drivers.
Yep, because they can't find Americans.
Do y'all have like a simulator? For
We actually have a truck driving school that's run through our continuing ed department.
But does it have a simulator?
Not a simulator, they have the actual tractor trailer.
It's better than simulator.
Oh, it's not better.
No?
No, because you can actually put like a
Different,
storm, a
Oh.
different environment and things you don't want to have. And so how they're gonna attack.
We're looking at getting that because, yeah, you know, we train them in this environment, but if they go up north and they're exposed to a
Ice.
snowstorm or ice or black ice or something, they need
That's
to know how
how
to
they
react.
approach it, yeah. I'm telling you, because in Nuevo Laredo, La UAT and FEMA have, it's like 150,000, but it's worth it. They give them that experience of rain and storms and snow and everything.
Yeah, take that seriously, because you can get a lot of kids jobs.
And it's not that they're not material. Everybody's smart enough, everybody's got a brain, but sometimes right out of high school, they have to work.
They have to work.
Well, but the other thing about, there's a caveat to that. There are a lot of truck, people with a commercial driver's license. The problem that these companies are having is having them pass the drug test.
Yeah.
When they go to do the drug test, they don't pass. They have the license, but they don't pass the drug test.
And the other thing, if they get tickets, I guess they get, what, do they,
Truck ticket is very expensive.
And they don't get any warnings when you have a commercial driver's license. You have a commercial driver's license, you get the ticket, there's no warning.
by the way, I want to thank Councilman
Yes, thank
Martinez
you
for
for
coming.
being there.
Very interesting. I'm glad you invite me because
Yeah, we'd
I
like
get a
to.
lot of insight with some of the comments that you guys are, and some of the questions that you guys are asking. Because a lot of the questions that you were asking, the Carranco duo here are questions that are being asked of me by my constituents, so.
Right, right. Well, awesome. Very good. Is there anything else? I know now we have our last agenda item is a report by members Arturo Dominguez. By the way, our new member, Mr. Rafael Dueñas.
Welcome. We'll have some fun here.
So it's up to you guys. Y'all take it away.
I just told, this is a verbal report. It was just what happened in Austin, at least that we know. They were approached, one of the is the bulkhead. That was one of the main thing. Everybody was very interested in what it looks like.
The bulkhead?
The bulkhead.
It's, if they forced a wall on Laredo, what would we do in order to keep it from looking like a wall?
And it really looks like a river walk and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you know, at one point, the Chamber of Commerce, we had John Cornyn in, and they didn't call, I guess it's a weir dam.
Yeah, there was one once.
And, well, they wanna put a weir dam, so you widen the river part there on, I guess from like the railroad bridge, all the way to Bridge 2 or somewhere. And at that point, you can have boats, you could, you can,
Yeah.
Well, actually, you can benefit, or we can benefit as a city.
We can benefit.
Oh, yeah.
That's a river walk.
Yeah, like a river walk thing, I mean, it serves several purposes. The federal is funded.
as long as there's no barbed wire, you know. And
That was basically the ultimate goal, is I think the stance of the cities, we don't want a wall, but if the federal government comes in and says, no, there's one going, then that's what we're gonna push. And you said it went well?
Well, they were very impressed with the project. I mean, the people that saw it, the state reps and everything, they were impressed. In the federal level, Mr. Quaid is trying to push that each city does whatever they have to do. In other words, we might look into this and somebody's city will have something different, but that's what we would like. And so they were impressed, and I think they like the idea. Maybe they'll run with that idea in other cities as well. It'd be a little bit more expensive, but
I'll tell you, I was with Robert, with Frank Ronczowski, maybe 12 years ago when we went to Washington, and he came up with this idea. And as a matter of fact, I told your mom and him yesterday, we need to tell Henry to tell all the border towns to use their concept because it's awesome. You make a wall that doesn't look like a wall, but acts like a wall.
How are we gonna get Mexico to pay for that?
I know. Yeah. That's right.
That was never gonna happen.
No, never.
Absolutely not. The IDs, but the other was the 4A, 4B that we've been talking about.
The what?
The 4A, 4B.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. And so, first they gotta pay the sports.
They have to
They have
close
to
the loan.
retire the debt.
Yeah.
And so they have to look first into what's the penalty and.
Are there penalties for retiring?
Because I think it expires to 2026 or something like that.
Right.
So right now, how much is owed? About 22 million?
Yeah, approximately.
And they
Again,
have
it's
money.
based on a debt service of 30 years, so the bankers were expecting a return, and so if you
Right.
prepay it without all that,
What if you convert it? Can we?
Although right now, if the rates have
you
gone
have to
up,
pay it, and then you can convert. But you
although
gotta
right
do it.
now, if the
You
rates
still
have
gonna pay a
gone up,
penalty.
if the rates have gone up, the investor can get a higher return. So normally there's what you call a yield maintenance agreement. So in other words, they say, look, I have an agreement that I have to make at least a 5%
Right.
return. But if the return now is 7, well, there's, that goes away. So
Right.
just food for thought.
Hey, Robert, on those baseball fields, we put in a bid when y'all were looking at Tammy U. I own 2,000 acres inside the city limits called Cielito Lindo. And we put in about $18 million of infrastructure in there. And then Gary Linedecker and I own another 1,300 that's in the city limits, annexed. We have $1 million of water and sewer there. And whenever you're gonna go out for bids on that project, I don't see a problem in us donating a whole bunch of stuff there. And you don't have to pay for water and sewer because we already paid for it.
Just for point of order, let's just stick to the discussion
Yeah.
items.
Yes.
So we can.
So, and basically that's what I have. I was only there for 2 days, but it seemed like they were very receptive. Richard Raymond, they asked if he would put in legislation, and so they're looking into what the penalties can be or whatever they're gonna charge.
So we
us.
can do it, it's just a matter of what needs to be done
And I think they have the
before-
funds to pay it off.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ways to do it, and so we
Okay,
just need.
you're the expert.
Right, well, and, us
Going
as a
back
team and
to-
working with council, we can move mountains if we need to,
She was there.
or want to.
Yeah,
Going back
because
to
the
the
4A, 4B
4A,
would
4B.
really,
Going back to, I guess it's type A and type B, I think one of them is the one that we really do need
B.
because, I
it
don't know if it's
ain't
B or A, but because
those are the
essentially
baseball
you
fields.
can get the sports venue, put it on the type B, and the sports venue fits in, but there's a whole lot of other stuff that fits in.
That's right.
But then it's also got to go to the legislature, and then it's also got to go through an election.
I'm sorry, are you saying that part of the B can come from, like?
No, in other words,
Okay.
sports venue is earmarked for
It's
business.
very specific, yeah.
4B can encompass
a lot of it.
the sports venue stuff, but can encompass a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can
So
do
you
more.
can still accomplish
understand.
what you can what you're accomplishing now,
Mhm.
but you
Have a
have
wider-
a wider spectrum of what you
Understood.
can accomplish.
Yeah, but you have an election though?
Rafael, you have,
Sorry?
No, but you're gonna, you have an election to see if that,
We would have to have an election to bring the.
Right.
well, we're not gonna win because all the people, the boxing, all the rich people will go make
Well,
money.
we'll get
That's
there.
exactly the thinking. That's how we didn't get our conference center. No, los ricos van a hacer mucho dinero.
I guess I'll just add, on the economic development, we did have a meeting with the Commissioner Julian Alvarez, who was here in Laredo recently. So we were able to strengthen that relationship and have a contact. I know you mentioned that it was a little tough in that area, so we do have a direct contact with him. We strengthened a relationship. He's available to come back to our city if we need anything from him. But he did give us some sheets and places that
All
we
the
can go and
grants.
see all the tools and grants that they can
Oh,
offer for
okay.
us and
Smart.
for apprenticeships, college
It's just-
students,
I don't really
women who
have
are
one.
incarcerated, getting them jobs, getting them back into society. Just things that is state funded on behalf of the workforce
That's around-
commission.
What's that LC?
Yes, we met with
Tammy,
the commissioner and again, real spearheading the workforce.
Excellent.
Very good conversation.
Councilman, do you have, did you go to Austin?
We went, yes, we were there 4 days. We visited with TxDOT to try and get further funding for some of the projects that we've got going on here. We visited with Parks and Wildlife and found out that we hadn't done anything in over 10 years. But we talked to them about developing the Chacon area, the Zacate Creek area, maybe incorporating it with the Casablanca State Park, tying it all in through the River Vega. We did talk to Texas Workforce Commission, had some very good positive meetings with them. We did talk to several of the chairmen of the various committees. Yes, the bulkhead was a big hit, thanking us for thinking outside the box. We didn't want to tell them, and in some cases, we did tell them that, yeah, we were talking about this 10 years ago, thanks to your father, who brought that up. But it could be a river.
True River Walk.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the one that, as far as the weir, the one
That
that
was always, yeah.
The weir
first
was
was
gonna be
actually,
at the.
your dad was one
Yeah.
of the first ones that brought that. Because I think we can build one more dam weir.
It would be right at the mouth of the Zacate. The water would back up into the Zacate Creek, and it would back up over to
Well, maybe they'll do that.
that
too.
whole area. It would be nice. I think there's some renderings that your father probably. did
That's an
on that.
untapped asset in your neighborhood.
No, that's right. So we were very well received, and we've got our work cut out for us. But I think we're moving forward. We just okayed to hire a grant writer, and staff is looking for somebody to do that, and then we can get all these projects and find fundings for them. So thank you to all of you all that went. I know Rafael was there. Sugar, I mean, and of course, anyway.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anything else?
Before we adjourn, I have a question, and because we got upper city management, we did have before. Now that this conference center died, is there any way that they can revive that some other way for down? I mean, I live in North Laredo. This is not on the agenda, but I just have a question. I live in North Laredo, it wouldn't affect me one bit, but I'd like to see, downtown be brought back in the conference center.
I think to be very general and not go any
No, I
deeper.
understand. I
Sure, and we would also, the city, I'm gonna assume that comment that we would also like to see the downtown revitalized as well. In whatever form that takes, I can only imagine that the council would be a strong driving force to continue. They've been that, they'll continue to be that. What it's gonna look like at the end of the day, or how, through what way we'll get it done, is soon to be seen, but again, that'll be dependent on the Faskin group.
And I think the Faskins, what I hear are, they're looking
Okay, that
at
was just my
maybe-
Yes, sir.
question. In other words, it just didn't completely die and he swept over.
No, I think our motivation, our downtown revitalization motivation, I don't think has gone away.
Okay.
At least that portion. I can't speak past that, but I think we are still vested in the idea that our downtown has to be revitalized and be brought back.
Good deal.
And just as information, we had a meeting with Customs yesterday, and as you
I'm
said,
sorry,
the second or third port of, biggest port, actually, there's some commodities that we are the biggest port. Like, for example, the automotive and aerospace.
Yeah.
The fiscal
Everything
year
considered.
2019, we imported $61.7 billion. And then the second was Detroit with $42.9 billion. Then you have Los Angeles, $33.9 billion. So in some commodities, we are the biggest port.
Awesome.
And you know what? It's cheaper to bring product from China through Houston than Lázaro Cárdenas or Long Beach,
Because of the
California.
congestion in Los Angeles.
We
Lázaro
looked at that.
Cárdenas and
So that was even more incentive for them to come to Laredo.
they took the pie, they took some of the pie, and they never came back. And all of that product that would come through Los Angeles would come through Laredo, and then they would import it to Mexico. So we lost a lot. We lost APL that had one of the, almost the whole floor.
What was the major killer of that? Why did they?
Because of the congestion in Los Angeles, they started going to Lázaro and Manzanillo. And once they started shipping over there, they started losing interest in Los Angeles.
Doesn't Manzanillo go to like El Paso, or is there a direct?
No.
That's
Is
somewhere
it-
else.
It's, but
It's further down.
it does, their major port in the US is Laredo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were going to Mexico, they would come to Los Angeles, come to Laredo, and so one of your floors there at the executive was APL. And it just, now it has maybe a little office there, I think they moved to San Antonio, because they didn't have enough business here in Laredo. So they lost that all to Mexico.
Well, very good. Is there anything else? If not, do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Adjourn. Second, all in favor? Adjourn. Thank you all very much.
Johnny, thank you.
Very good presentation. Thank you.
No, it's great.
It's a real pleasure hearing you.
Take a look at the, I just got the very
Any information now?
Take a look at you.
My brother was on the LCC for 22 years.